Streaming is everywhere. Platforms such as Netflix, Disney Plus, Max, and Amazon Prime's long impact on society has affected how we eat, sleep, watch, and produce our beloved TV shows and movies. But what started out as a large step towards innovation has seemed to have gone rotten. How did we get here? Today, we'll be looking into streaming's past memories and how the current WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes will change it for the better. Special thanks to Stephanie Estes, a member of the SAG-AFTRA union, for allowing me to interview her. The concept of streaming has been around since the 1990s, with one of its first public usage being done by ESPN to stream the internet radio events covering the Seattle Mariners versus the New York Yankees. But it wasn't until the year 2007, when a familiar red streaming service saw its potential, that it began to gain traction. With its first out of many popular shows, House of Cards, bringing them into the spotlight. With over 120 million subscribers under their belt, Netflix has paved the way for streaming services such as Hulu, Prime Video, Max, and of course Disney Plus. According to an article by Forbes Home, 86% of households pay for more than one streaming service, with a staggering 50% of streamers only paying with the intention of watching one specific show. Can you describe kind of how life was before the strikes began?
Rewind to 2022, it was much busier in terms of, like, I attended a film festival in the spring. I had like a handful of auditions every month that I would be preparing for. There was a feature that I shot. I shot a TV show and then a feature. So it was a busy year.
And although increased demand for streaming was great, the pressure to increase profits and cut costs wherever possible is when buffering became the least of people's issues.
This year, I think it was like half the number of pilots were being made. So already the year started off pretty slowly. And then it got dead, I would say, leading up to the Writers Guild strike. I think a lot of people were preemptively aware that the strike was going to happen, and were sort of hedging their bets a little bit. Now, I mean, there's really not a lot theatrically going on.
According to a bulletin titled "Writers Are Not Keeping Up," released March of this year, the Writers Guild of America reported writers' work weeks went from an average of 40 weeks to a little as 20 weeks. Not only that, but an increase in writers working the minimum base pay has caused pay to decline 23%. It's not just the writers either.
I have had a fantastic time working on, like, I've done 2 different projects that were on Amazon, and the experience was absolutely lovely. Like, I guess where my what bothers me is that, like, the residuals that I get paid for those shows are paltry in comparison to the ones that I would get paid were it on a network, like FX or AMC or ABC. So it's a bit upsetting when a company specifically like Amazon that has incredibly deep pockets is not, being fair in terms of how they compensate actors for their work in the long game, because acting it's a profession that fluctuates so greatly. It's feast or famine a lot of the time, and residual work, like the residual income that an actor gets, it's usually not a financial windfall, but it will be something that can help sustain them till their next bigger paycheck. So the fact that these companies with very deep pockets are not providing that, providing something that allows actors to have a sustainable income is very unfortunate. They contribute to our pension, they contribute to our health insurance. Like
Mm.
they're important for us to get, and to get amounts that aren't less than the cost of sending them in the mail. Like it's ridiculous when your residual is less than the cost of a postage stamp, you know?
Right. And honestly, like just getting that in the mail, so after all the hard work you put
Oh
in
yeah.
on the show, that must be incredibly insulting.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
How do you feel that streaming has changed in the way that content is produced currently?
I think streaming broke a model that was working. Like there used to be a model where like a TV show, unless it was on a platform like HBO that you paid a premium to get every month,
Mhm.
you had to deal with advertisements. And that was profitable for the people who made the shows, and it was profitable for the people who creatively participated in them.
Mhm.
What streaming did was it was like, here you can have everything and you can have it now, and you pay a very small upfront cost and you can have all this content, right? And I think, yeah, it took something that was a feasible way for not only individuals to make money but for companies to make good money,
Mhm.
and really turned it on its head. I would assume that moving like in the next few years, they will have to go back to that that ad
Mhm.
revenue model for it to be a sustainable thing.
Overall, writers and actors alike are expected to survive and care for themselves in one of the most expensive areas of the United States, with little pay in order to continue working their career. With CEOs of these streaming companies receiving bonuses, while screenwriter pay hasn't had an increase since 2018, it's easy to see profits and record breaking revenues aren't going where they should. So, what are these members fighting for?
So this year, there's just, and with this contract, there's a lot on the line in terms of um, residual pay, in terms of AI protections, and in terms of just minimums too. To qualify for SAG health insurance, you have to make a minimum of $25,000,
Mhm.
which is not a living wage.
Right.
So, like, what is that? Like 88% of the union is making less than $25,000 a
That-
year. I was pretty, and I will say was upset with SAG because in 2020 they raised the minimums
Mm.
for qualifying for health insurance. Like it used to be, there used to be two tiers. You could make something like $17,000 a year and qualify for their lower tier of health insurance, and then make 22 or something and you would qualify for their higher tier. Um, but upon like further reading and education, I I learned that they had to do that because their the funds that were um, like the funding for the health plan was being paid into by the companies that make up the AMPTP, and
Mm.
what they were paying into our health fund was so low that SAG couldn't had to higher their threshold in order to maintain offering health insurance.
And because of the senseless greed of these CEOs, the WGA and SAG members striking today are making history, marching for their rights and for the rights of inspiring writers and actors now and in the future. Do you feel any hope for change coming soon? Do you feel the optimism?
Well, yeah, it's funny you asked that. Like, I remember the first day I went picketing, I was walking to Disney and I was watching all these people park their cars and get out and walk to the same place. And I was like, there was a surge of emotion within me. And I felt like very, I don't know if I want to say optimistic, but I like, yeah, I guess optimistic and hopeful in that, together we can achieve what we deserve. And it was just very touching to see fellow actors walking the line and like people, and it was, I saw people I knew that I hadn't seen in years, like ran into them randomly that first day, made friends with new people. It was for, yeah, it was there was a real sense of, yeah, camaraderie and optimism and determination, I would say, resolution. Like we're not going to back down, and we know that there is a power in a unity. It is all about community, and it's about the people you know, and it's about finding people that you like to work with, and um, holding each other's hands, pulling someone up, and then hopefully they'll push you up.
So what can we do? Well, with shows being delayed as late as 2025, now is the time to rise up, show up on the streets, hold these companies accountable, and most importantly, extend patience and support to the members striking. Below is the link to the Entertainment Fund to support these actors and writers, and let us all be on the right side of history. That's a wrap.